There's a town sitting right in the middle of the California desert where you can buy a three-bedroom house for less than the cost of a used pickup truck. I'm not talking about a condemned shack. I'm not talking about something that floods every other winter or sits on a landslide. I mean a real house. A house with a yard, a garage, rooms for the kids, and a kitchen you could actually cook in. And it costs less than $80,000. In California. That sentence should not exist, but it does, and the town is called Barstow. Now, if you've driven from Los Angeles to Las Vegas, and millions of people do every single year, you've passed through Barstow. You might have stopped for gas, maybe grabbed food at one of the fast food spots on the main drag, looked around for about 4 minutes, got back in your car, and kept driving. That's the version of Barstow most people know. But what most people don't know is what the real estate market looks like here. Because when you start pulling up listings, something strange happens. Your brain kind of short circuits. You keep refreshing the page thinking the numbers are wrong. They're not wrong, and that's exactly what we're going to dig into today. We're going to walk through 7 homes in Barstow, California, real listings, real prices, and we're going to try to make sense of why a state that charges $500,000 for a starter home in Sacramento and close to $1 million for a basic house in the Bay Area has a town where you can own property outright for less than some people spend on a car. The prices are real, the houses are real, and by the end of this video, you're either going to be packing your bags or asking some very uncomfortable questions about what it actually means to live in a place like this. Let's start from the beginning. Barstow sits in the Mojave Desert at roughly 2,100 feet above sea level, about an hour northeast of Los Angeles and about an hour and a half from Las Vegas. It's on the I-15 corridor, which means it's not exactly in the middle of nowhere, it's more like the gateway to nowhere. Everything passes through Barstow: truckers, tourists, military personnel. The town has been a stopping point for travelers since the days of Route 66, and it hasn't really shaken that identity. What that has meant for housing historically is this: Barstow never got swept up in the California housing boom the way coastal cities did. It didn't become a tech hub, it didn't attract the kind of transplant money that turned places like Fresno or Riverside or even Victorville into legitimately expensive markets. It stayed put, quietly. While California real estate exploded everywhere else, Barstow sort of just held its ground. And the result of all that is a housing market that genuinely feels like it belongs to a different state, maybe a different decade. Here's our first house. 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, just over 900 square feet. Sits on a corner lot, which means a little more breathing room than you'd typically expect. The yard is a manageable size, not huge, but enough. Desert landscaping in the front, which out here isn't laziness, it's actually smart. Low maintenance, low water bills, and honestly, it looks clean. The interior has been updated, new flooring, fresh paint, kitchen cabinets that don't look like they're from 1987. It's not a luxury renovation, but it's not a disaster either. It's a livable, decent, move-in ready home. The asking price is $69,000. $69,000. To put that in context, the median home price in California right now is somewhere around $850,000. The average down payment on a California home, just the down payment, is often over $100,000. This house costs less than a down payment on a median California home. And it's not even the cheapest one we're going to look at today. Now, at this price, you're probably already asking the question I was asking when I first found it. What's the catch, right? There's always a catch. So let's think through that honestly. The house is small. 900 square feet is not a lot of space if you've got a family of 4. And Barstow is hot. Summer temperatures regularly hit 105, 110 degrees. If you don't love heat, that's a real consideration. The job market here is limited compared to a major metro. These are real things. But if you're someone who works remotely, or someone who commutes occasionally rather than daily, or someone who just wants to own something outright without a 30-year mortgage hanging over your head, this house starts to look very different. Let's keep going. The second home on our list is a little bigger, 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, about 1,400 square feet. That's a meaningful jump. You've got enough space here for a proper family setup, kids with their own rooms, a guest room if you need one, a home office if you need one. The lot is generous. There's a covered patio in the back that would be, honestly, really pleasant in the evenings when the temperature drops and the desert cools off, because it does cool off. That's something people forget about the high desert. The nights can be surprisingly comfortable, even in summer. The house itself is well maintained. It's not new, it was built in the early 1980s, but it has that solid, built-to-last construction quality you actually find in homes from that era. The layout makes sense. The living room is a real living room, not a converted hallway. The kitchen has counter space. There's a laundry room inside the house, which out here is genuinely worth mentioning as a feature because not every home at this price point has that. This one is listed at $94,000, under $100,000 for a four-bedroom house in California. I keep saying that, in California, because it genuinely hasn't stopped being surprising the more of these I look at. We have been conditioned to think that homeownership in this state requires either generational wealth or a very specific kind of financial situation. And then you look at Barstow and the entire framing starts to fall apart. Let's pause here for a second because there's something worth understanding about Barstow before we get to the next few homes, and it actually explains a lot about why the prices are where they are. Barstow is a military town. Fort Irwin, which is the National Training Center, one of the largest military installations in the country, is about 30 miles north of town. That means there's a steady, consistent population of military families cycling through Barstow, people who are stationed at Fort Irwin for a year or two, sometimes longer. And because of that, the rental market here is active. People actually rent houses in Barstow regularly, which means if you buy one of these homes, you're not necessarily just buying a place to live, you're potentially buying a property that could generate income. Military families need housing, they need it reliably, they need it in decent condition, and a four-bedroom house for under $100,000, rented out at even $800 or $900 a month, starts making financial calculations that are very different from what you can do almost anywhere else in California. I'm not saying Barstow is a hidden gold mine. I'm saying the picture is more complicated than it looks on first glance, and that's part of why these prices are interesting even if you never plan to live there yourself. Okay, back to the houses. This next one is the one that made me stop scrolling for a full minute. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, about 1,200 square feet. The house has a pool. There is a swimming pool in the backyard. Now, I want you to think about what a house with a pool costs in California. In the suburbs of LA, even in the Inland Empire, Riverside, San Bernardino, Ontria, a house with a pool is typically a $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 home. In the Bay Area, you might not even find one under $1 million. A pool is, in most California real estate conversations, a luxury feature. It adds value, it adds cost. In Barstow, this house with a pool is listed at $112,000. And honestly, in the desert, a pool isn't even really a luxury, it's kind of a practical decision. When it's 108 degrees outside, a pool in the backyard stops being a status symbol and starts being a way to survive the summer. So in a weird way, the pool here is more utilitarian than aspirational, but the price is still wild. The house itself is clean, updated kitchen, tile floors throughout, which again is just smart in the desert, cooler underfoot, easy to maintain. The master bedroom has its own bathroom. The backyard is set up well, with the pool taking up most of the space but still leaving a patio area with room for outdoor furniture. This is a home you could actually enjoy. $112,000, pool included. We're getting into the middle of our list now, and I want to bring in something that adds a different angle to all of this. Because so far, every home we've looked at has been fine. Decent, actually. Move-in ready, reasonably maintained, nothing alarming. But not every listing in Barstow looks like that. Some of them are rough, real fixer-uppers. And what's interesting is that even the fixer-uppers are priced in a way that makes your head spin, because the starting point is already so low. This next house is listed at $52,000. $52,000. It needs work. I'm not going to pretend it doesn't. The kitchen is dated, there's flooring that needs to be replaced, the exterior needs paint, the yard has been neglected, but the structure is sound, and that's what actually matters when you're looking at a project home. The bones are there. 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a functional layout on a decent-sized lot. If you spent $30,000 or $40,000 in renovations, which goes surprisingly far out here where labor costs are lower than the coast, you would end up with a home that cost you under $100,000 total and looks genuinely sharp. And in a market where homes in this condition are selling in the 90s to low hundreds after being fixed up, that math could actually work out in your favor. Now, I want to be careful here. I'm not a financial advisor, and real estate always involves risk. But I'll say this. The margin for error in a market like Barstow is so much wider than in coastal California, simply because the entry cost is so much lower. You can be a little wrong and still come out okay. That's almost never true in Los Angeles. We're past the halfway point, and I want to bring in a home that feels slightly different from everything we've looked at so far. This one is a newer build, or newer-ish. It was built in 2004, which in Barstow makes it practically a new home compared to most of the housing stock. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 1,600 square feet. Open floor plan in the main living area, the kitchen connects to the dining area and living room, which is the layout most buyers today are actually looking for. Vaulted ceilings in the main living space, 2-car garage. This is the kind of home that if you described it without mentioning where it was, most people would guess it was priced somewhere in the $350,000 to $400,000 range, maybe more depending on the neighborhood. The features are all there. The layout is current, the construction is modern enough that you're not dealing with the kinds of maintenance surprises that older homes can throw at you. It's listed at $138,000. $138,000 for a 1,600 square foot open plan 2-car garage house built in 2004. This one genuinely stopped me because it doesn't fit the narrative of old, small, and cheap. This is a house that would be considered desirable in any market, not just an entry-level option. And yet, the price is still so far below California norms that it feels almost categorically different from the rest of the state's real estate. Let me take a moment here because I think there's a bigger question underneath all of this that's worth sitting with. Why does Barstow work this way? What is it that has kept prices this low while the rest of California went through one of the most extreme housing appreciation cycles in American history? Part of it is geography. Barstow is not close to anything that California considers a premium job market. The nearest major city is San Bernardino, and even that's an hour away. Los Angeles is 2 hours. These aren't commutable distances for most people, at least not daily. And in a state where property values are so tightly tied to proximity to employment centers, being 2 hours from the nearest major metro is a massive anchor on prices. Part of it is perception. California has a reputation, maybe deserved, maybe not, for being a place where life happens near the coast or in the major urban centers. The interior, the desert, the high elevation towns, they've always been treated as secondary. People move to California for beaches, for culture, for the economy. Barstow offers none of those things in a typical sense. But here's the thing that's changed, and it's something worth thinking about honestly. Remote work has fundamentally altered the relationship between where you live and where your job is. There are people right now living in places like Barstow, and not just Barstow, but Victorville, Needles, 29 Palms, other desert towns, who are doing fully remote jobs that pay Bay Area or LA salaries. And when you have that income level meeting these price points, the math becomes something else entirely. A $200,000 home in a high cost of living area might require a $200,000 salary to feel comfortable. The same house in Barstow, if it existed at that price, would feel like a completely different situation on a $60,000 or $70,000 remote salary. The lifestyle math changes. I'm not saying it works for everyone. I'm saying it's worth thinking about more honestly than most people do. All right. We've got 2 more homes, and I've been saving one of them specifically because it is the one that genuinely broke my brain a little when I found it. First, let's do this one. 4 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, 1,800 square feet. The house has a proper dining room, not just a nook near the kitchen, but a separate dining room. There's a family room and a living room, which means actual flexible space. The master suite is large. There's a laundry room, 2-car garage. The yard is good, landscaped, usable, fenced. This is a family home, not a starter apartment pretending to be a house, not a compromised layout that forces everyone into the same room, a real, proper family home. Listed at $162,000. Now, at this point in the video, you might be getting a little numb to the prices. We've seen so many homes under $200,000 that your brain starts to recalibrate and think of that as normal. So let me bring it back. The median home price in Irvine, California right now is over $1.2 million. In Santa Monica, you're looking at well over $2 million. In Oakland, $500,000 is considered entry level. In Sacramento, which people fled to during the pandemic thinking it was affordable, the median is over $500,000. $162,000 for a 4-bedroom, 1,800 square foot house with a family room, a dining room, and a 2-car garage in California. And now, the last house. This is the one I want to end on because it genuinely represents something I don't fully have an answer for. 5 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, just under 2,000 square feet. The house sits on a corner lot with a larger than average yard. There's actual grass back there, which out in the desert takes some intentional effort to maintain, and someone has clearly done that. The exterior looks well kept. The interior has been renovated. Newer kitchen, updated bathrooms, fresh paint throughout, tile and laminate flooring that looks modern and clean. There's a covered patio, there's a storage shed. The layout is smart. The 5th bedroom could easily function as an office or a flex room. This is not a marginal home. This is a genuinely good house. And it's listed at $187,000. A 5-bedroom, 3-bathroom renovated home on a corner lot with a yard and a patio for $187,000 in California. I've been looking at California real estate for a long time, and I still can't fully wrap my mind around this one. Because at this price point, in almost every other context in this state, you are looking at a condo with HOA fees and shared walls and parking that may or may not be guaranteed. You are not looking at 5 bedrooms on a corner lot with a backyard and a shed. Barstow keeps doing this. It keeps producing listings that the California real estate market, by every piece of conventional wisdom we have about this state, should not allow to exist. And yet there they are, refreshed, updated, real. So what do we actually make of all this? Barstow is not perfect. I want to be honest about that because it would be easy to watch a video like this and come away thinking you found a secret that everyone else has missed. The summers are genuinely brutal. The economy is limited. If you need a hospital, the nearest serious medical center is a drive. Dining options, entertainment, cultural institutions, these things exist on a much smaller scale than most California cities. If those things matter to you, they matter, and no price tag makes them irrelevant. But here's what I keep coming back to. There are people in this country, and specifically in California, who have decided that homeownership is not for them. Not because they don't want it, but because the math never works. Because the foundation is impossible. Because the monthly mortgage on even a modest home requires 2 incomes, no emergencies, and a kind of financial precision that real life rarely allows. They've made peace with renting forever, or they've moved out of state entirely, or they're just waiting for something to change that probably won't change. And then there's Barstow, sitting in the desert, 2 hours from LA, quietly offering 4-bedroom houses for $94,000. Renovated homes with pools for $112,000, 5 bedrooms on corner lots for under $200,000. It's not for everyone, but it's real. And in a state where so many people have been priced out of the conversation entirely, the fact that this market exists at all, that these prices are legitimate, that these houses are real, feels like something that deserves more attention than Barstow usually gets. You might drive through on your way to Vegas and see a gas station and a fast food sign and keep going. But underneath that, there are streets with quiet homes and front yards and 2-car garages. There are people who own those homes outright, people who aren't lying awake at night running mortgage calculations. Maybe there's something to that. Maybe there isn't. But the prices are what they are. And that's what makes Barstow so hard to explain. If you want to see more videos like this, looking at California towns where the real estate market breaks your expectations in some direction or another, hit subscribe and leave a comment below. I want to know, would you live in Barstow for a home that cheap? What would it take? What's your number? Because I think everyone has a number, and Barstow might just be under it.